Let's talk about mistakes I made when painting this leaf, how I mixed the various shades of green, the role of value in color, how to diversify your brushstrokes, and what I did at the end to fix it. I do one continuous brushstroke, but I vary the width of the brush throughout so that the stroke changes in width. That means shifting the physical pressure that I'm putting on the brush. It is important to be painting the stuff around it at the same time. I'm using the same color mixture and I'm applying it in the background and also inside the leaf later. I jump back and forth between painting the background and the leaf. I like to ask myself if I'm dealing with value or color. This highlight is absolutely about getting a really bright value. To mix this highlight, I started with a lot of titanium white, the slightest bit of yellow lake. I didn't plan this, but my palette knife had a little bit of green and it ended up working just right because that highlight ended up having a slight little touch of green to it, which made it fit better into the painting. This is the point of the painting where you think, I'm far enough along to do details, but I totally am not. I feel like it's just constant temptation to dive into details, but I have to delay that, even though I jumped in. I know, I'm a total hypocrite giving you advice that I didn't take myself. I made a really bright mixture that was tinted a little bit with cerulean blue. This gave a lot more color variety in the highlights. This is a color thing because the light blue and the light yellow, they're pretty much the exact same value, but one is cool and one is warm. It's the veins in the leaf that were just, I guess, irresistible to paint in there. I totally got nailed on those veins in the leaf. I should have ignored them, but I really thought it was okay to jump in. At this point in the painting, I'm not so much doing long strokes. Here I'm shifting to doing strokes that feel more like shapes. That tends to get a much broader range of different marks, and it helps with the dimensionality, so that way you're not always outlining something. I try to make sure that the shapes I'm making with my brush are all different sizes. When I premix my colors, I like to start with a base color from which all of the other mixtures come from. I took a piece of the base color and then created a new mixture which had a lot of cadmium yellow to increase the value. I was mostly focused on mixing gradients here in terms of value. When I start a new mixture, I like to take the previous mixture and add to that. This way, I don't have to start every single mixture from scratch, which is so much more efficient and also really guarantees that there's a certain degree of cohesion between all the mixtures. The key to having great brush technique is having as much variation as you possibly can. I'll often look at paintings and I can tell that the artist only used one brush because if you use one brush, there's a limit to how many types of marks you can make. And you start seeing that same mark over and over again. People tend to feel a lot more secure with a smaller brush. It's just so much less intimidating. It's a lot easier to control. Those bigger brushes, they may seem incredibly awkward, but don't underestimate them. Not only are they faster in terms of really blocking in large areas, but I think it gets you to not think about detail because you literally physically cannot do it. An effective way to do blending is to make sure both of your colors that you're blending are wet. And then I go in with a completely clean, dry brush, and that becomes my blender. If you're trying to blend and there's a lot of paint in your brushes, it's just very difficult. To get the dark color on the right-hand side, I started with the color on the left-hand side and then added alizarin crimson. This is a change in color in terms of saturation. What really got this leaf to come together was this very large brush that I used at the end. In retrospect, I should have started with that brush, but no, I had to go in and do those details, which I shouldn't have done. With a big brush, you have to be a lot bolder and you have to think bigger. The version of the leaf that I ended up with had no veins. And guess what? It looked way better. It didn't look picky. It felt like nice, fresh, bold colors. Make friends with that big brush. It's so much better than the little brushes who are going to make you work so hard for not such a great result. So let's just blame all our problems on those small brushes.